Hey everybody, this is John for Pioneer Nexus MTG coming at you with a little bit of a different series. That is, we're going to be taking a look at each of the top archetypes in the format and playing a quick game with them, as opposed to doing a league, which we'll continue to do as we're focusing on various specific decks. But, do want people to have some general frame of reference as they're getting into the format, and I think a quicker gameplay is a little bit better than trying to sit through a 2-hour league and understanding what's going on with the deck. So Rakdos Sac is arguably the best deck in the format currently, having replaced Rakdos Midrange, mainly in part due to its similar game plan, but a little bit different. It's still very good against creature decks, still has a decent aggressive game plan, but still struggles against decks that go bigger in it. Decks like Azorius, Lotus Control, Fires of Invention decks, and has a little bit worse of a Lotus Field matchup because it doesn't have the amount of disruption that Rakdos has. What it's different than Rakdos Midrange, you're more of a synergistic deck than you are card quality deck. That said, you're still playing a lot of the powerful cards. You're playing Thoughtseize, you're playing Fatal Push, you're playing Blood Tithe Harvester, and Fable the Mirror Breaker. So you have a good portion of what makes Rakdos Midrange strong by playing this a little bit different give a game plan. Mainly the cards Claim the Firstborn, Furnace of Raid, different ways to take control of your opponent's creatures. And then you use things like Witch's Oven and Deadly Dispute to sacrifice them, so you get advantage from it by using them for a turn, then your opponent doesn't get their creature back. And then beyond that, you just have a bunch of synergies that play off of those sacrifice synergies. Mayhem Devil, every time a permanent gets sacrificed, whether it's on your side of the board or your opponent's, it can deal 1 damage to any target. Very powerful effect, especially when you're playing a deck full of Witch's Ovens, Treasures, Blood Tokens, etc. Unlucky Witness is a 1/1 that allows you to sacrifice it to gain some amount of card advantage or card replacement, so it's not bad, especially in conjunction with Deadly Dispute. And finally, Cauldron Familiar, everybody's favorite cat that we thought was a goner, but the cat came back the very next turn. Cauldron Familiar plays quite well with Witch's Oven. Usually only gets played as a 3 in these decks anymore, but can continuously drain your opponent over and over again, can be relevant in kind of the grindier matchups or just as ways to stay afloat when you don't have a ton going on in your deck. And a 1-of Kroxa, card that plays nicely when you're putting a bunch of stuff in your graveyard. It's a little bit of an attrition card, etc. Mana base, nothing too fancy, same things you see out of Rakdos Mid. Den of the Bugbear, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, Castle Locthwain, Urborg, then a bunch of dual lands, a couple basics. You have some very demanding cards. Actually, mana demands in this deck aren't as bad. You don't have any double black or double red. So, as long as you have 1 red, 1 black source, you're generally doing pretty good. Sideboard, myriad of different things. Meathook Massacre helps against the creature decks and can also help give you a little bit of extra damage to your creatures whenever they're dying. Leyline of the Void. This is primarily here for Greasefang and Izzet-based Phoenix decks. Kind of shutting down the graveyard, can also come in against Neoform Control, stopping their ability to delve. Thoughtseize and Duress, along with Obnixilis, these are your primary go-to cards in kind of the grindier matchups. Blue-White Control, Blue-White Lotus Control, etc. Help to slow them down a little bit, give you a diversity of threats so you're not as vulnerable to some of the sweepers. A myriad of different removal specs. Shoulder's Edict, very good against decks relying on 1 big creature or planeswalkers. Noxious Grasp deals with mono green and a lot of the things out of Spirits, Angels, well, not really. Yeah, Spirits, Angels, Humans, and also hitting planeswalkers out of Blue-White Control. A Braid, nice split card, Shatter Effect, 3 damage to any creature, quite nice. Second copy of Furnace Rains, interesting way to deal with your opponent's bigger threats, like against mono green and such. Kolaghan's Command, also a grindy card, blows up opposing Witch's Ovens, blows up things out of mono green, also a way to rebuy some of your creatures out of your graveyard. And then you get to play Gigantha, so it's nice to have a companion as a little bit of a grindy card. And that is Rakdos Sacrifice in a nutshell. And we'll play 1 quick match with the deck and give you some idea of how this deck operates. Alright, back here with our first match with some Pioneer quick hits. This time we're playing Rakdos Sacrifice, a deck that I used to play a lot in Explore, but I don't think I've ever played it a lot in Pioneer. This hand's got the tools. Probably the only holdback to this hand is Our land is the Blighted Steppe. Unlucky Witness at least gives us a couple redraws, so I think we'll try it. Okay, looks like we're going to be up against blue-white or Lotus Field. Okay, hand got significantly better. I think we play Witch's Oven first, in case they want to hold up counter spells here. See if they counter Cauldron Familiar. They don't, so we'll play Unlucky Witness, because I really don't want to expose these Witch's Ovens currently. Opponent got nothing. Okay, they are in fact Lotus Field combo, not Lotus Field combo, Lotus Field blue-white, which means, okay, I should not have passed through the turn like that. That was kind of dumb. Alright. Means we could have potentially missed a point of damage here. If the opponent has farewell, then we can say farewell to our chances of winning this game, but their normal sweepers are kind of whatever. Which unfortunately, it looks like that's exactly what they have. So artifacts, creatures, and graveyards. How's this worded? To their next end step. Do they dispute and not that this does much as they're going to be able to Alright, well, we've drawn all 4 ovens, which go ahead and pass here. Obviously, Sacrifice is much better against creature-based decks than it is blue-white.bs. And we have a Thoughtseize, a Duress, some of Nixilis's to bring in. Opponent's going to start going in their combo route here with Teferi untapping this and just having an absurd amount of mana. Yep, Proctor, sure. Just push this. So the opponent should be a 15, but I don't know that it's going to end up mattering this game. So could have played Hive of the Eye Tyrant. They don't have a ton of ways to answer manlands. I mean, they do have things like Castle Ardenvale. They do have some number of Wandering Emperors. Yeah, Shark Typhoon is basically going to be game. Draw a card, draw a land. That's probably going to about do it here. All District Proctors, sure. Take a peek at their hand before we call it a game. It's just a land. Probably should have played Hive there. Probably could have drawn there. We had the chance of hitting a cat, but I don't think a cat's going to be quite good enough. Especially when this is a triggered ability, and I think cat counts as a triggered ability, so we're just going to go ahead and move on. Alright, so we definitely want Thoughtseize, Duress. These two both seem fine. These two seem alright. Fatal pushes are like arguably okay against Strict Proctor, but otherwise are pretty terrible. Furnace Reigns is kind of middling. Claim the Firstborn is arguably pretty bad. So I might bring back in the first Fatal Push just to be able to answer like a Strict Proctor or something. So I'll go like that. Obviously this deck is much more designed towards punishing decks like Humans and Spirits and Rakdos Midrange, those kind of decks, than it is an actual control deck. Post-board, we kind of turned into a bad version of Rakdos Midrange's game plan against them. You could, I guess we could conceivably bring in Kolaghan's Command over the Fatal Push. I'm supposed to do that. But all these are relatively useless. Sometimes they have, like, dragons and dream trawlers, but these ones are relatively useless. Fatal Push deals with Strict Proctor. That's about it. Shark tokens. Meathawk Massacre. We should have drawn. Whatchamacallit? This one, hand's fine. Probably a little too land heavy, but opponent does not play much in the way of counter spells, especially main deck. They might have, I guess they can conceivably have March here. Much of Otherworldly Light. We gotta be mindful of not clicking through our turn. Obviously this is a bit risky as we take down Deadly Dispute, but we'll top that, sure. Discontinuity, perhaps? Nope, foretelling a card. So good chance that is Doomscar. So let's still play this out, but we're probably going to be Deadly Disputing when they cast. So even if they don't, we could always sack a blood token just to continue to get some momentum. But it does nothing. We could potentially play around Wandering Emperor by Thought Seizing first. Yep. Okay, once again, kind of playing into Farewell. Okay, so we'll take Farewell. They do in fact have the March of Otherworldly Light. And possibly a sweeper loaded up with their... Could be a counter spell, could be a draw spell, could be Doomscar. Interestingly, they just... And we hit 2 lands after we play our land drop. Okay, some missequencing on my part, but here comes Memory Deluge. Fairy, yep. What was the risk in bringing this back? Okay, so they're going to go ahead and exile it. Okay, which is an address. Okay, draw the 2 lands. I think we still just go ahead and attack with Blood Tithe Harvester, force them to make the trade. And then play all right. Sure. The card I was most looking for here was Nicholas. Could be the best card in this situation, but it's also possible I should have upkeeped Castle to draw a card, take one less, in case we didn't draw like a land or something. But this feels like a pretty terrible matchup overall. Opponent with infinite chump blockers now for Giganta. Possible if I'd played a little bit smarter, we'd still have the cat going, and we could have maybe drained them out that way. So, things to note as you're playing a deck, especially one that you aren't particularly familiar with, is to note your mistakes. And a deck like Rakdos Sac has a number of opportunities to make small mistakes. And unfortunately, when your deck is built around maximizing small edges, can cause you some problems. Castle Vantress. Surprised they didn't do that. I guess that they just played Castle Vantress, so they couldn't do that during their upkeep. But see if they attack or if they hold back. Opponent correctly recognizing that our Hive of the Eye Tyrant's probably our best game plan right now. At least to deal with our Teferi. Discontinuity. Yep, I'm going to draw step. So this is the point where you enter the boredom phase of the game, and at that I'm going to go ahead and concede. So definitely not the matchup you want to draw as a sack deck, but something you should be aware of. But that is Rakdos Sacrifice in a nutshell. If you like this Pioneer content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you for our next video.